Today's Tanya for the 21st of Av is in Igeres HaKedush. It's Siman Zayin, the seventh letter. It's on page Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. The number at the bottom of the page is 426. Ashreinu matev chalkeinu maneim gedoleinu. How happy we are, how good is our portion, and how beautiful is our lot. Hashem enos chelki v'keisi. And the other pasuk says, God is my portion and my cup. Chavolim noflu li. Great portions have fallen to me, have become mine. And lahov and loshen chalkeinu v'gedoleinu. So to understand all of this portions and lots, tzarich levayet heitiv loshen hashogur b'maimer ezal. We have to explain clearly an expression that is common in the among the sages, that ein lechelik belikei Yisrael, that when it's talking about somebody who is very sinful or very alienated from Yiddishkeit, the expression is ein lechelik belikei Yisrael. He doesn't have a portion in God. So here also the expression is a portion. Ki hagam de lecheira leishayach loshen chelik klal belikus yisbarech. Although it really is not proper, and you can't apply the term part to God, because God is indivisible and can't be divided into parts, God forbid. So what is the meaning of that expression in the sages? That it says by Yankiv, and he called him God, the God of Israel. Pirush, what this means is, the truth is that God is as his name implies. Because although he fills all the worlds, the higher and the lower, from the highest worlds down to the lowest portion of this mundane world, as it says, the heavens and earth I fill, ani mamosh, I, literally I, God himself. Meaning God's essence, not only a presence of God, but God himself. Yet, afal pikein, hu kodeshu muvdo me'elyenim v'tachtenim. As his name implies, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, he is Kodesh, which means separate, and removed above the higher and the lower. And he is not contained within them, God forbid, as, for example, the neshama of a person is contained within his body, as explained elsewhere at length, that there's a difference between the way the neshama is contained in the body, in that it becomes affected by the experiences of the body, whereas when God fills the world, even as he fills the world, he remains above and beyond the world, not at all affected by time and space, as we learned in yesterday's shir. And therefore, we would be incapable of receiving life from God's essence. Rak hispashtus hachayus, only an expression of his presence, of his life. Asher HaKadosh Baruch Hu machayel yeinu v'tachtenim, that part of God that extends, this radiation of God, which extends into the world and gives life to the world, is as, for example, as if there were a light coming from God's name, and God and his name are one. It says that God's name remains above and alone. What then comes down to the world? Only some aspect of the name. So there's God, and then there is his name, and then there is the rays of his name. So even the name, the middle level, is also higher than the worlds, or the attributes. And what comes into the world is only some aspect of the attribute. As we were learning earlier in Tanya, that it's only the speech, which is an expression of the emotion, that reveals itself to the second person. And so it is with God. It's not the emotion itself that reveals itself, or the attribute of kindness, chesed, gvura, tiferes, and so on, that reveal themselves into the world, but rather the speech of those emotions, the words and the letters of those emotions. And that ray, that clothes itself literally in the lower worlds and in the higher worlds, to give life to those worlds. And they are contained within the world, through many intermediaries and numerous tzimtzumim and contractions, through the chain of levels, derech ilu v'olu, by way of cause and effect, rather than radical steps. It is a gradual process going from cause to effect that brings about the contraction and the limitation of this ray, until it becomes so limited and so minute that it can actually be contained in the physical world that it is giving life to. But God himself is far above the limitations of the category of creation, and therefore cannot be contained in the creation. In the Hayom Yom for today, the 21st of Av, the Rebbe writes that activism on behalf of the ways of Chassidus means that even when a Chassid is in the marketplace and involved in his business, he is still conscious and aware of what it is he could do to enhance the ways of Chassidus and the welfare of Chassidim. So when he encounters a business associate in the marketplace, he looks to find ways to persuade him to attend shir in Chassidus, or to come to a Chassidish Fabrengen. So being active on behalf of the ways of Chassidus is a personal obligation. It's not a general obligation, but it's an obligation on each individual, regardless whether one is great or very limited in the knowledge of Chassidus. Every Chassid has a personal obligation to spread and to enhance the teachings and the derech of Chassidus.